left. Normanton, Lower Pontefract and Hemsworth. With no land being available, this will have an impact on Normanton Higher. There's plenty of provision at Ferrybridge, which is located at the Nevison end of Pontefract. Currently, 88% of burials do go to the Ferrybridge cemetery. We are investigating some land at Darrington, but there's no suitable available land adjacent to Pontefract. Hemsworth does have adjacent land, and we're currently investigating that. It's difficult to estimate the cost of establishing a new cemetery, but recently a neighbouring authority developed a 9-acre facility at a cost of £1.3 million. Current demand approximately 850 burials each year, but this has dropped over recent years, with cremation now being a more favoured option. This report has two options. One, to accommodate burials in the existing cemeteries and review the position in 3 years, and the second is to acquire suitable land for extension to existing cemeteries. I am proposing option 1 at agenda page 7, accommodate burials in the existing cemeteries within the district and review the position in 3 years' time.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. You won't believe this, but it is true.
I'm sure if you say it, Peter, it is.
Okay, thank you for that ringing endorsement. I had a constituent ring me this morning about this, about 9 o'clock, and she's raised 3 points I want to raise with you if I can. I apologise for the short notice.
Okay.
One is, she suggested, raised the question as to whether or not we can potentially use some Section 106 money in terms of burials. She's also made the point that although the option that you're advocating, you know, it makes sense, in 3 years' time, if we have to buy land, the value of land will have gone up. So what she was suggesting was we at least look at the potential of buying some land now. And again, that could link to the first point she made about some Section 106 money. The third point she made was, have the churches been consulted on this? So those were her 3 points. And one point I just raised, and I've raised it again, there's an increase now in what are called woodland or natural burials. Yep. And I just wonder whether or not we can maybe advertise a little more the options available to people when they lose a loved one. Because there are different alternatives to using the existing burial sites or to cremation. Humanist burials, say yep. Woodland burials in particular, and now are increasing in popularity. So those are the yep. things that she asked me to raise. And I have to say, I think certainly the Section 106 money and the idea of buying some land potentially or getting developers to help us is one worth looking at. So anybody else?
Okay. Take one or two of those points. I don't know what the demand is for woodland burials. I'd have to ask Di that, and I'm sure we can come back on that one. I think the closest woodland burial is probably in Barnsley, or certainly in the south, that we haven't one in Wakefield. We do strewings across a couple of sites, but that's cremation strewings. But we can certainly find that out for you. It must be music to Diane's ears to hear that we might be able to use Section 106 money. And that is certainly an option, and we'll take that away because we do have 2 areas that we are actually looking at land. But of course, the land is not always available where people want that land to be. With regard to Normanton Lower, I'm not sure we have any land around that area. We have looked around that area. In Pontefract, we had a chappie write to us with some suggestions. Unfortunately, we couldn't accommodate those suggestions because some of the land was just not suitable at all. We are always looking for land. As I say, we're looking at some in Hemsworth and we're looking at some in Darrington. But you have to agree it's not always in the place that people want it to be. But I'm sure it's music to Di's ears about Section 106. But I've just seen Bernadette whispering in somebody's ear that that's possibly not possible.
What Bernadette was saying was that we ask officers to investigate these possibilities. So we can't make a decision here and now, just on the basis of that phone call.
I mean, I still move the option that we review,
so
but we can.
We'll accept that option, and at the same time ask officers to investigate the possibilities raised by a member of the public.
Yeah, well, Di's here and she's been listening to the conversation, so I'm sure. And we do meet regularly and actually discuss burial land. So yes, so thank you.
So thank you for that, colleagues. Financial health report. Oh, that's me. Month 7. And it speaks for itself, hopefully. Well, I hope it does. But
It does.
it does.
It does.
Thank you, Les. That's with Les's endorsement. Can we agree it speaks for any questions or comments? Thank you. Evaluation of annual public health report.
Yeah. As you remember, you was asked for this to come back to Cabinet in 6
Yeah.
months. As you will see, there's good evidence that improving health during pregnancy and the first 2 years of life with 1,000 days will result in lifelong benefits. While some progress has been made, there remains further progress improvements required and the full potential of the district's children to be realised. You will see the background information, what's the 1,000 days update. So teenage conceptions have continued to fall, but they're still by 1/3. Smoking in pregnancy is reducing, however it's still twice the national average. Breastfeeding prevalence in the district is rising but still behind national levels, and then prevalence of children's vaccination has remained above the national average. So there is some improvements, but there's still some way to go. But as I say, you can see it has made a difference within the district to some areas.
Is it your last meeting, Andy?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I should have asked before, so we need to place on record our thanks to Andrew, and congratulations on what is clearly a big promotion. So hopefully you'll keep Wakefield in your mind in your new role. But just from me, just a big thank you for everything you've done for this council and for its residents, actually, and all the work you've done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Colleague there.
Yeah. And can I wish you all the best for the future as well. It's been lovely working with you. On agenda page 39, it's nice to see that conception has fallen. And recently we were reading the report about poverty that's been produced. And to quote one of Olivia's well-known phrases, I think if we can give young girls ambition, then we probably will see conception fall. I just wonder how it is we are reducing conception. Is it that we are giving young people ambition to do other things?
Okay. You're doing that, Andrew?
It was just a statement.
Yeah,
We don't know.
We don't really know, do we? It's hard to say, especially when all the budgets are being cut as well, isn't it? You know, but where do we go with it? But as I say, we are looking at things through the Health and Wellbeing Board as well, to connect things to, you know, all the outlying issues that we have. And hopefully we're going to do a development session where yourself, Maureen, and Olivia will be invited to that session to put your points forward on some of those issues that you have.
I mean, just on that one issue, Chair, the trouble is we haven't enough research, I don't think, in terms of the morning after pill and abortions. They need to all fit in together to know whether actually conception has fallen or not. That's the trouble. It's that we don't actually know sort of if they're using alternative methods to ensure that the conception hasn't proceeded. And I think that's what we perhaps need to do more research on. But I'd just like to comment particularly on breastfeeding. I really think that when we look at other aspects of caring for a baby, the breastfeeding in itself is important and really benefits children. But the main issue is the bonding, and the bonding encourages you to read with your child and have them on your knee, and to actually have a relationship with them and talk to them and so forth. And I think that would be the continuation of where we would see processing education, by ensuring that from a very early age bonding takes place with a significant adult, and therefore the children benefit from that relationship. So I think the whole thing is sort of all linked.
It is. Yeah. But as you will see from the report, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library that took place which is continuing in there, and 70 babies who were registered, you know, and there was a powerful video. I don't know if you saw it, Les, actually, on fathers reading to babies at such a young age, 3 days old babies, and they were really taking note, so the message is getting out there. And I think with regards to breastfeeding as well, we've done quite a lot of work with cafes and things in Wakefield district to allow people to breastfeed there, so it doesn't become like that stigma that people don't want to go in restaurants or cafes because they don't want, people stare, or there's a stigma around it, and I think we're breaking those barriers down.
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that, certainly the Dolly Parton side. I think, Pat, that one of the things that gets the message over is simplicity.
It is.
I think the more complicated you make it, I think there were some very visual things around there that people sort of saw and enjoyed, and they pulled it back into their own sort of experiences. So I think the cafes, the libraries, and how people are starting to do it, and we are seeing more people using that building for those sort of things. So I think it would have. I think it would have a good day, and I'd certainly urge you to do more of those.
Well, we are looking at that, and a report is being drafted, to come forward. But as I say, it's a cost again. How much does it cost? So, is there any other ways we can actually provide that by other types of funding or something?
Okay, thank you for that, Pat. And agenda item 10 is another issue that is concerning everybody at the moment. Mental health, and perhaps the lack of resources being allocated towards mental health. I don't know if you're going to introduce it, Pat, or whether Andrew is, but certainly, Andrew, I want you to comment. It is your last report to us, so I want to give you the chance of commenting as well.
Yeah.
Do you
Then you'll pass comment from there. Right then. Okay then. So with regards to mental health, it's just as important as physical health, and it's essential that the stigma attached to this type of ill health is reduced and people get the help and support they need to move forward. So this year's report is mental health and well-being, which is also one of our 3 priorities on the Health and Wellbeing Board. 1 in 4 of us will experience some symptoms of mental ill health, and 1 in 10 adults in the district have been diagnosed with depression. The report shows how important it is to lay foundations of mental well-being in child's early years. 50% of adult mental illness starts before the age of 15. It's also important to address mental well-being for working age adults. Mental health is one of the most common reasons for sickness absence. We do and need to do more to promote the benefits of healthy ageing and address the issues of loneliness and social isolation, which can be harmful to our physical and mental health. As you will see, many people have contributed to this report, and there are 2 excellent short videos which can be found on the Council's website, which has just gone live. These are around real stories of those affected by mental health. Everyone has a role to play, and there are 10 recommendations to show how we can all make a difference, and these are at agenda page 99, so I'll move the report.
Thank you very much, Pat.
And can I also just say to Andrew, just to say that it's an excellent report, and I want to thank you for your support to myself and the work you've put into the local authority as well, and you'll be missed, but I wish you well in your new venture.
Thank you very much. The report this year is on mental health, which, as Councillor Box mentioned, is an issue that nationally has been neglected over many years and not resourced in the way that other areas of health have been supported. So it's quite right that the Health and Wellbeing Board has chosen this as one of the 3 areas of particular focus. We wanted to put across the message that really this is an issue that everybody has a role to play in, whether you work for the council, whether you're an employer in the district, whether you're a resident in the district. There's something that everybody can do, and hopefully the recommendations reflect that. I do commend the videos to you. There's one on 5 ways to wellbeing, and another one on how local people have accessed support and been helped through some of the support services. And if you manage to get through that second one with the dry eye, you'll be doing better than I did, I'm afraid. It's very powerful accounts of people's stories, and I'm grateful for them for sharing their stories. I'm grateful to Duncan and the team for doing a lot of the background work and taking this forward as I disappear off into the sunset. And can I just thank you all for your support. It was Councillor Cummings that was on my interview panel 9 years ago, so she's the one to blame. But I've thoroughly enjoyed working for the council and learned a huge amount, so thank you all.
Great. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm really pleased that there is a growing awareness of mental health issues, but I did want to just pay compliments about this report. I did say it to Pat earlier, to both of you, because I think it really is an excellent report. And what I like about it is that it is presented in a way which is just so readable, which often reports come through which are a little bit dry, but and it's full of some very sensible recommendations. So thank you for that.
Olivia? Then Maureen.
I mean, can I reiterate what Pat referred to, page 71? 50% of adult mental illness starts before the age of 15. I think it's another 25% before the age of 30. So what we're finding in our schools is that the teachers are not adequately trained and feel this to cope with all the issues that are happening in schools in terms of support of young people, and there simply isn't enough money and resources available for particularly young people, and it could prevent so much of adult suffering if more emphasis was put. But what we actually see is longer and longer waiting lists and real concern by parents that in fact there just isn't enough help. And I think we need to highlight that more and more, that not enough money is being spent on mental health, and we could prevent so much. And the knock-on effect, the whole report indicates that, as you say, that it's not just mental health as a separate entity. It affects every part of your body. It affects the whole existence, and from sort of exercise to weight to socialising to isolation to all the things that you can or cannot participate in are restricted by one's mental health being. And I really do think that we should be shouting from the rooftops that we could do so much prevention if we had more monies.
Exactly. You're right, Olivia. And, good mental well-being include, having a good job, positive learning, environment at home and school, support from family and friends, taking regular exercise, not smoking, not drinking, within recommended guidelines, So there's all those issues around mental well-being. It's not just around the stigma. It's, how you can, sort of look at yourself and do things differently.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I echo everything that's been said. Mental health is at the core of everything, I believe. At a young age, certainly as people are getting older, life can affect mental health. It's very timely that this is here today, because today is the introduction of the Police's Section 139, I believe it is, where people suffering mental illness can't be kept in custody anymore, which is going to create a massive, massive problem, certainly across the district, with over 800 people actually being taken into custody over the last year. And now they can't be held in cells. They have to be taken to a secure unit such as Fieldhead or Leeds or Barnsley, or they have to be cared for through sofa care, which is actually taking a mental health patient to a facility and actually sitting them on a sofa while they can be assessed. I suppose my plea on the back of this report is that, as chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, and I'm sure that you are, mental health provision is one of the top priorities, certainly in this district, so we've somewhere safe and secure to take people when it is that they're suffering from mental health problems.
It is one of our top 3 priorities, Maureen, and that will stay there until we see some positive outcomes from it. But as I say, I think from local schemes that we're doing in Wakefield, protect green spaces, deliver work opportunities and work with schools, so it's all those things that we need to look at, and, as we say, it's everybody's business, really,
I've had family members who have suffered mental health problems, and the impact on the family as well is something that shouldn't be underestimated. And I know there's a lot of focus, quite rightly, on young people now. The pressures on young people nowadays, and some of those pressures, through social media, it is huge, and we really do have to make sure it's one of our priorities going forward as a local authority. I know we're reassessing our priorities quite rightly. But this has to be a key priority. It just does.
Yeah.
Les.
I'm glad you said that, Peter. My eldest grandson's just gone down to university, funnily enough, and he was saying he's in the halls of residence, and he was saying there's a lot of work going on down there, because when they go in halls of residence, there's a lot of them go behind this door and stay there. And they were saying that, he was saying, because we were looking at mental health, and he was saying they are really taking it serious and setting up counselling sessions for anybody that wants to go along. The thing is, how many, what's the cost and all that side of it, but it all comes back to that as well. So I think you're right, Peter. It is that side of it, and it is the family side of it, and it's not going to go away. No. And I think we have to deal with it. It is. And I just wanted to say, and I think it is, I touched on it before about the Dolly Parton thing. I think this is a really good report, and I really do, because you can read it and you can understand it, and it visualises a lot. It's not just reams and reams of notes and writing. So I think well done to everybody that pulled it together.
But as I say, going back to what Andrew said about the videos as well, you know, look at them, because they are the real people, you know, and they're telling you their story.
Can I ask them that, in thanking Andrew for a great piece of work to kind of sign off with, we'll look at how we can make this widely known. We need to speak to our comms team to look at making sure we've got a strategy actually for disseminating this information. And I don't just want to pass it today and say, you know, it's great within the confines of this room. We need to make as many residents as we can aware of what the issues are, what we're trying to do, and what can be done. So if we can ask that that's done, Pat, and perhaps before you finally go, Andrew, to speak to the press team. I mean, every member of our staff should have this in some form or other, some abbreviated form, and we do need to make the public, the general public, aware of this. Otherwise, you know, we're not doing what we should do. Okay, so thank you very much, both to you, Pat, and in particular to you, Andrew, and so we wish you well in the future. I'm going to tempt fate here by saying I hope that the Treasury and Management mid-year report for the period ending 13th September is one of those reports that doesn't need any elaboration, but you never know. Les?
No, I'll be brief. You know I will. It does provide positive assurances, and I think when you read it, you can see it. And I think linked with certainly what we talked about, or didn't talk about, Chair, with financial health, it does say that the Treasury and Management activity is in line with the strategy that we approved, and I think that's good. I think it also pulls out the strategy for 18-19, which is no change, and the report's already been sanctioned by Audit Committee, so I'll just move the report, Chair.
Thank you, Les. Can we accept that?
Yes. Yeah.
And presumably the same for the capital programme, mid-year report?
Yeah, the capital programme, half-year update on the report for capital is setting out the latest position, I think, which is good. Capital programme's increased by 24 million, which is good. Additions to the programme are shown on Appendix A and Appendix B, and I'll move the report with that, Chair.
Thank you, Les. Any questions or comments? If not, can we agree? Agenda item 13 is clearly an important report, in particular with the appointment we're making later this week. Les?
Yeah, I think the thing about strategic commercialisation, it is pulling together 4 key areas. We're not just talking about commercialisation. What we're doing is focusing on how we're going to do things. One is income generation. I'm sure all colleagues around this table will agree with me. I think we're totally fed up with cuts, austerity, and I don't see this government doing anything any different. As a matter of fact, when you look at the latest budget report, you can see it's no change. So we have to look at other ways to do some of the things that we've been talking around this table, to look at some of core values. We're looking at income generation to try and deliver some of those things. We're going to create a strong commercial culture, a different culture. That's easier said than done, but it's something that we're seriously looking at. And commercial investment. So this report pulls together a number of those things, and I think it's long needed to focus on some of these things, especially income generation. So with that, I'd ask two things. One, to approve the plan, which is in here, and secondly, that Cabinet approves the new fees and charges policy that's in this document as well. With that, moving.
Thank you. Just to say, in terms of, on page 146, number C, procurement, Merrin was with me on Friday. We had a presentation from the Centre for Local Economic Strategies, CLES, and there was somebody there doing a presentation on work that's been done in Preston on procurement and the change in terms of the value to local businesses before and after the work with CLES was striking, wasn't it? Really striking. I've actually asked them to come up here to do a presentation to elected members, to Cabinet colleagues, so that we can get an idea of what is possible and how we need to change our procurement so that there's a strong element of social value in every procurement contract. And they've done that, and it's it really is remarkable, the change. So I still think there is scope in our procurement process to help local businesses and to grow the local economy. Now, if we can work with our West Yorkshire colleagues, all well and good, but I do think that irrespective of that, we've got to do something differently in Wakefield. Maureen, sorry.
Yeah, just a couple of things, if I may. I read recently, it was circulated to Cabinet members, some employee ideas, which some were off the wall, I thought, but some were quite good. I wonder if they're going to be taken into account when it is that we are looking at income generation. But secondly, and I'm back on my old one here, and that's on agenda page 16, which is improve technology. And I think we need to improve technology because we need to improve productivity. Productivity of our employees having to actually sit there and wait for something to happen on a PC is not good use of time. So I'm pleased to see that we are going to look at improving technology.
It's got to be part of it, Maureen. Answer those two. I think technology's got to be part of it. Things are moving along at a rapid pace, and I've got to put my hand up. I don't think we're keeping pace with some of it. So yes.
Olivia?
I just wanted to say two things. One was, could we consider poverty in relation to this, so that in fact we're not actually doing anything to make people poorer, when in fact there's going to be enormous benefit cuts in the next year to so many families in Wakefield. So we need to balance it with the fact that we're looking to commercialisation, but at the same time not making it worse for people who are already pretty poor. And the other thing is, I think we already do it, but could we check that it's sort of being sustained in terms of local businesses, and do we actually buy from as much as we can locally, so that we're supporting local industry as opposed to further afield and more travel involved and all the issues associated with outside of the district.
In terms of that, Olivia, the point I made earlier about social value, you can actually draw a procurement process that has, I think is it a 20% element they have in for social value. So that's what we should do in future, to a greater, to some extent, certainly more than we do now. And that will actually do what you and I are both suggesting, give greater opportunities to local firms, but I believe it can help in terms of poverty as well. Because one of the things you can put in the social value element to a contract is poverty. And you can actually put in what are they doing to alleviate poverty. So that you can actually do that. So I'm sure that when we come to see it, and it will come to Cabinet, it isn't going to be just done behind the scenes, it will come to Cabinet, because this is a political issue, how we use our spend. We need to make sure that we take that on board. And I say, CLES will come to Wakefield and do a presentation to Cabinet and CMT.
That's good. Just to say, Peter, I think social value has got to be the top of our agenda, full stop. That's what it is. What we also, the whole idea that the drivers around this is what said earlier, and that is income generation can't be just for its soul. We've got to have a reason for income generation, and that's to try and alleviate as much poverty and put the social value back in. Now, if all you do is drive down income generation, then you can cause some of the issues, Olivia. So we're well aware of that in everything we do. I'd welcome looking at that procurement, because procurement's one of the things that's sort of the top of the list with this. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not
So-
sure if it's legal anymore. There used to be contract compliance, didn't there?
Yeah,
That meant
years
you could
ago.
employ so many local people.
It's
and
slightly
so-
different as contract
It
compliance.
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can we make sure now we get that invitation to a joint session of Cabinet and CMT? So can we accept the report in principle? Yeah. Thank you. So can we move into private now? Yeah, same to you, Jack.